All right, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started with saving our store item for a particular store. I'm going to go to Albertsons on the right-hand side in the emulator. And I can see a page where I can enter the store item, I can enter the price, and I can enter the quantity. The good thing is that our page is already connected to all of those text boxes, text fields, by using the text editing controller right here. And this is already part of the build body function. So you can see that for the name of the store item, we're using the name controller. For the price, we're using the price controller. For the quantity, we're using the quantity controller. And we can always use this controller to access the value that the user has typed in the text field. Let's go to the raise button, which is save. If we click on the button, if we tap on a button, nothing really happens. So now what we want to do is we need to save the store item. So I'm going to go ahead and call a function, save store item. This function is defined right here, and it's completely empty in the same exact file. The first thing we need to do is we need to check, we need to validate if form key dot current state dot validate. If it is validated successfully, then we will save the store item. Well, now the question is, well, how do we save the store item? So let's go ahead and first create the store item list view model. And that is going to allow us to control everything that happens on this screen. So the store list view model is going to allow us to control everything that happens on the store item list page. This will be a view model. So let's go ahead and add a new view model. And I will call this store item list view model dot. Okay. So what should we do in the store item list view model? Well, first of all, we will have to create a class, store item list view model. And if it's controlling everything that happens on this screen, then we need a way to capture the name of the store item. We need to capture the price, which is in double. We need to capture the quantity, which is an integer. All right. We also need to capture the store view model. Basically, we also need to capture the store, because if we don't capture the store, then we don't know that if you're adding bread or milk, which store does it belong to. So let's go ahead and do store view model also. And in order to create an instance of store item list view model, we will make it a requirement that you need to pass in a particular store. Without passing in the store, we will not be able to access or create an instance of store item list view model. Now let's go back to our store item page. And in this page, now we will be able to go ahead and create an instance of store item list view model. And we should be able to also call or populate all of those properties with the values from the text fields. Let's go ahead and on top right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an instance right over here, and I'm going to call it store item list view model, which is store item list view model just for VM. Now, when we are creating the store item list page, inside this constructor right over here, we can write the code to initialize the store item list view model. And we can create store item list view model. And guess what? We need to pass in the store. That's a requirement. So store, and at this time, we actually do have the store, so we'll simply pass it. The next thing that we want to do is inside the save store item, which is right here, we need to populate different values that we are getting from the text field to our store item list view model. Store item list view model does contain 3 properties, which will be directed to the name, which is coming from here, the price, and the quantity, which is coming from here. So we need to populate these properties. So let's go to save store item. Store item list view model dot name equals to, we're going to use the name controller, which is tied up, which is connected to the store item name text field, and we're going to just get the text property. Next, store item list view model dot price. Now price is in double, so we can always use a double dot parse to parse the price, and we can say price controller dot text. And in the same way, we're going to go ahead and say store item list view model dot quantity. Quantity is integer, so we have to use integer dot parse, because everything that is coming from the text field or the controllers is actually string. So that's why we're using integer dot parse, double dot parse, and so on. Okay, so all of those properties are now populated. The next step that we want to do is we want to obviously save these things. So I'm going to go ahead and call store item list view model dot save store item. Now there is no function called save store item. So what should we do? Well, we need to create it. So let's go back to our store item list view model, and inside the store item list view model, we're going to implement the save function. Void save store item. Now, if you're saving a store item, it's a good idea to create a model. Although we can simply go ahead and use a dictionary, but we established it earlier on that it's not really a good idea to use a dictionary because you can misspell. So it will be a good idea to create some sort of a model that will represent the store item. So just like the store, we can create a store item, and we will use it later on also. So it's a good idea to create these things. So store item dot dart. Let's go ahead and create our class. Now this is our model, so this will never be exposed to the user interface or the UI. This is a model, all right? So it will have a couple of different things. We will need the store item ID, which is actually a document ID coming from the Firebase. We have the name, price, and quantity. Perfect. And we need a way to initialize, so we will have to create a constructor, which is right there. Perfect. Okay. All right. Now, just like before, it will be a good idea for us to create some sort of a toJSON function, which is going to convert this instance of store item into a map. Not the toJSON, sorry, toMap function. So if I go ahead and say over here map string, the value can be dynamic. So I'm just going to say dynamic. And the name of the function is toMap. So we're simply converting our instance of store item to a dictionary, to a map. And the reason that we are doing that is that when we are putting the item, we are sending the item to the Firebase Firestore database, it actually requires you to send in a map. Now we can go back to our store item list view model, and now we can implement this function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say final, and then we're going to say store item equals to store item, and we can import it. I think it might be imported automatically. Okay, it's not. So let's go ahead and import it. Store item, this one. And we can pass in the name, we can pass in the price, and we can pass in the quantity. Great. Now we can go ahead and use Firebase Firestore to actually add the item. So I'm going to go ahead and say Firebase Firestore instance dot collections. The collection is stores. We're going to pick up a particular store, And that's the reason that we pass in the store so that we can pick up a particular store using the store ID. So store.store ID. So now we are talking about Albertsons dot collections. Inside the particular store, we're going to create another sub collection. We're going to call it items. And in those items, we're going to add the store item dot to map. All right. So that's the whole plan, that we used the store ID, which is right over here, to point to a particular store, which in this case is Albertsons. We created a collection called items, and then in that collection, in that sub collection, we ended up writing our store item. Let's go ahead and run this and see it in action. So I'm going to go over here and try to add an item. So I'm going to just say milk. Price is, let's say, $3. Quantity is, let's say, 2. And I will save it for Albertsons. Let's go to Albertsons. Try to find Albertsons right there. Okay, it doesn't really look like it changed or anything, but if you refresh, you will see something different. Now we have items collection, a sub collection inside that particular document, which is right here. Let's go ahead and open up this sub collection. Oh, it has a document. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the document. And there we go. This is the actual item, the actual document properties, milk, price 3, quantity 2. This is exactly what we entered. So this is great. Let's go ahead and enter one more. Now, a couple of things you will notice is that even though I press the save button, it did not clear it out. So that's kind of annoying because now I have to clear it out myself and I have to write another one. We will fix that in a moment. Let's say price for bread, $5, and we will only buy one bread. We will save it again to Albertsons. Okay, so there we go. Now we have two items for Albertsons, bread and milk. This is great, right? Now, one other thing that we would like to do is after we have saved something, we would like to go ahead and clear the page, meaning clearing the actual text fields. There's already a function called clear text boxes, and probably we can simply go ahead and call this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say clear text boxes, and you can see that clearing text boxes uses the name controller, price controller, quantity controller, and simply calling the clear function. Let's go ahead and refresh it. And let's go to a different store this time. So I'm going to go to Fiesta. And what item do I want to buy? Fiesta sell actually really good fish. So let's go ahead and buy fish. The price, let's say $8. And the quantity, let's say 2. Save it, and you can see it's cleared out. Let's go over here and check out that if our items are actually stored or not. So we are right now in the stores. Let's go ahead and find Fiesta. HEB, Fiesta, there we go. And we are also looking at items collection right there. Items, there's a document, and fish. So it looks like it's working out correctly, and we are successfully able to store a particular store item which is associated with an actual individual store. Okay, so this is all great, but why can't I see all the items? So what we want to do in the next lecture is we want to display the items right over here. So it should display fish. And if I go to Albertson, that should display me milk and bread and some other items if I have added. So in the next lecture, we'll look into how can we start displaying items for our individual stores.